And so now it's my privilege to introduce our housing provider, S2A Modular. Representing S2A today is Sales Manager Anthony Diaquino. Anthony, please share about your background, how you ended up working with S2A Modular.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruben, for that intro. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. So I've been married for 13 years. I'm a father of three, happily married and super excited about my kids. They're just, I call them boogers a lot, but they're great to have. Some of my hobbies are, I like the outdoors. We like dirt biking and camping and things like that. Sports, video games. My son's been playing baseball. He just started in June, so that's been kind of a nice little father-son bonding experience. So we're actually planning on going to the park after work today and, throwing the ball around, which is just really cool to do. We're also a Disney family, so you guys are closer to Disneyland than I am from Patterson, so you guys are
Yeah.
lucky. But yeah, we are a Disney family. A little bit about my professional background. So I actually started in solar. I was in the solar industry for about 13 years. Started my own company in 2016, the Aquino Solar, and just kind of flourished in there and had a great time doing solar and traveling and building teams across the country. And then 2023 started to see a lot of changes in the industry specifically in California as well. Some changes came on a government level, on the federal level, and decided to make a change for sure. And that's where during that time as well, we sold our first house and we're actually in the process of having a new home built in Patterson, California. So during that time, I was like, well, let me see if there's something in Patterson I can work at. And I found S2A. And I didn't know kind of the timelines of S2A, which I'll go into more in detail, but I applied with S2A because we're sitting on a 35-acre campus. We have model homes. We have a sales center that are being constructed. We have a 110,000 square foot facility with plans for a second facility, same square footage. And, this is going to be just humming with, 200, 300 employees off this one property. It's completely ran on solar and battery, and we don't pay the utility a dime. And so that fascinated me. So I actually applied for more like on the solar side, like, hey, maybe we can work with developments and things like that with my background. And they ended up hiring me as the sales manager, just with my experience in sales, not in modular in particular specifically, but just, my experience in sales and training and developing and things like that. And so that's how I ended up at S2A as the sales manager. And I started 2024, early 2024, so coming up on 2 years now.
That's an awesome full circle moment. Thank you for sharing that. And it's great to hear about that trajectory and the that overlapping alignment with S2A and how that all came to be.
Yep.
What would you say is the mission of S2A Modular?
But what I say is just really changing how people think about developing and real estate and building homes and things like that. And that's not just the big developers, right? Obviously, yeah, there are billion-dollar developers and things like that. But it's the little guy too, which obviously you guys focus on as well. But in the last 18 months, 2 years or so, I've been with the company. A lot of times I'm talking to these people that, maybe they want additional income, so they want to add an ADU to their property, or they're sitting on a half acre, 2 acres, and they want to build a duplex, triplex, quadruplex, but there's just a lot of intimidation behind that because of the way construction has gone, right? Not to throw anyone under the bus, but general contractors, they come in, yeah, we can get this done in 6 months and it'll cost you 100 grand. It never takes that long. It always doubles, triples of the timeline, and then the price always doubles and triples. And so now I've heard hundreds of stories in the last 18 months of someone, yeah, we started this process in 2021, and first contractor took all our money, and then the second contractor took X amount, and now we're 3, 4 years we've been sitting on the property, and now that's additional holding costs. And so people are just intimidated with approaching building homes. And you guys are aware of this, and I'm sure the community is aware of this, but one of the biggest transfers of wealth besides oil, stock market, and Bitcoin or whatever is real estate. It's land. And a lot of these people in this community are sitting on land. They can add ADUs, they can add duplexes, they can add these different ways to bring in wealth to their family or additional incomes. But like I said, they're just intimidated by it. So with us, we take a lot of that intimidation off. We help customers control the cost and we help customers control the timelines to where they pretty much just need to develop their land up to the foundation. And then everything else is handled off-site in the factory. So, and it's an assembly line. So if we say, hey, we're going to ship this puppy out in 8 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever it may be, it's getting shipped out in 8 or 10 weeks. And hey, we're going to build this for you for 200K, 180K, whatever it is. It's going to be built for 180K, 200K. So, and then you're not going to deal with, oh, the contractor got a flat on the way to work. And so he's got to push back 2 weeks because X, Y, and Z. We have guys here that are on hourly. They get 401ks, they get benefits, health benefits, all those things. They're showing up to work. They're clocking in at this time and they're clocking out at this time. So they're going to do the job and they're going to do it right. So that's probably how I would describe our mission. There's obviously additional the pre-IPO and they want to go public and all that stuff. But me, kind of ground level, right? Seeing it, looking in people's faces and stuff. That's kind of my focus is to take the intimidation out of it for a lot of customers.
I like how you guys are bridging that gap between that homeowner, right, that may not be well versed in what it means for them to retain and produce additional forms of generational wealth beyond
Yep.
their
Thank you.
existing land or property. And also, right, in real estate, we say this all the time, right? Time is money, and so when an organization can commit to their timeline in construction that's comfortable on both ends, it just makes it for a great product. Everyone's happy at the end.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Anthony, can you share with us how did yourself, S2A, come to support the Launchpad vision? What is it that attracted you to engage in this collaborative partnership?
Well, one has to be Robert's conviction. I know you guys see it, you guys deal with him probably a lot more than I do, but no, that man is convicted with what he's doing, what he's trying to accomplish. So that's one, that's just infectious, right? And you want to be in the trenches with someone like that, right? And if it's going to be a 18-month, 2-year, 3-year battle to get through political approvals, city, state, whatever, that's a kind of guy that you want to be doing those battles with. But two, no, I mean, I want to say 18 months ago or so, a little bit over a year is when me and Robert kind of got connected. He just kind of reached out. I think he was on like one of our investor webinars or something. He reached out, me and him connected. And I want to say the original plan for Launchpad was shipping containers, and that was the original plan. And I was like, hey, like you should check out Modular. Like look what we can do with it, and those advantages. And from that, obviously the renderings are a lot different from what we're actually going to build, and I'm super excited for the community to see that. But no, 100% has to be Robert and his conviction. And but then also Launchpad is focusing on certain types of demographics of the community, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's immigrants, illegal or legal, right? It's military families, single mother, military family. It's foster children just kind of in transition to adulthood. And then it's what's the fourth one?
Yeah, really young people experiencing homelessness broadly.
Right.
And so yeah, you really hit all the populations on the nail, and
Right.
we're keeping it pretty open too, right? We're saying it's like if you're in need, right? Generally speaking, which
Yeah.
can translate to many different avenues.
No, no, exactly. And so kind of to that point with those demographics, like me personally, I've been affected by all those demographics. My mom, as my hat says, she grew up in Jalisco and she moved to the States when she was 14. And, however she came here, that's whatever, but she became a citizen and, now raised a beautiful family and works hard and pays taxes and all that good stuff. And so I was able to see, my mother kind of what happens when an immigrant comes to the country and is able to flourish, right? And then my father, his dad passed away in Vietnam when my dad was 8 years old. So at the age of 8, my dad had to, and then grandma had to work 2, 3 jobs. She was never home. So my dad kind of had to raise his two sisters. He had to be the man of the house at the age of 8. Fast forward when he had 7 kids. We kind of saw how he raised us, which it was, good or bad. I'm not ragging on him or anything like that, but I love the man to death. But you could tell they didn't have resources back then for a mother who had a husband that just passed away in the military and had 3 kids to raise. She had to work 2, 3 jobs because she didn't have access to resources and things like that. So I saw firsthand just kind of how my father raised us, how that could affect someone, how that can affect a man or a woman, right? And then part of those kids that we mentioned, we adopted 2 kids growing up. My brother got his high school sweetheart pregnant, and she was a foster child. So we adopted her and her little brother, and I grew up with that little brother. We're the same age. And but seeing that he was someone that my little brother Raymond, he was someone that kind of grew up in the foster system and was hopping houses every 2, 3 months. And he had a lot of trauma, as you can imagine, what these kids go through. And then I remember within a couple months, and like I said, my dad was really hard, really strong, right? Italian dude from the South or whatever. But there was a few times where, my little brother Raymond was kind of like, okay, this is the point where I'm just like, they're making me do the dishes, so I'm just gonna throw a fit. They're gonna throw me in a new house. And my dad's like, no, you're doing the dishes. I'm gonna make it. No, this isn't a foster home. This is a family. And so we kept him in the house till he was 18, and he lived with us, and we were a family. So I got to see a lot of what Robert is focusing on, of how that could affect different youth, and how it could affect, my dad's in his 60s, and I know things that happened growing up still affects him, right? And it's because, not a lot of those resources and things like that are available to everyone. So yeah, let's do it. Let's give people
Yeah.
access.
Yeah, and I think that's it right there, right? It's all about access and we're in this space to be able to give back and so it's supposed to be easier generation after generation and
Yep.
unfortunately we hear too often, right? We just heard from you, right? These aspects of housing insecurities or just
Yep.
being impoverished, right? Hit far too many communities, right? They could be right here within your own community or as you are someone that I'm just now meeting, right, far, far away. And so through our partnership, we want to put an end. We're saying the claim, we want to end youth homelessness in San Bernardino, and so
100%.
that's
100%.
that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I have another question for you, Anthony. Could you describe our partnership? How does our day-to-day look like as far as when we're working with S2A on the build out? How does that look like on site? Can you provide a concise overview on that collaborative?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously, as we mentioned before, Robert already had some renderings made up of what he wanted the launch pad to look like, and obviously we had to change that to modular. And on your guys' end, I'm not saying this, but like you guys changed a lot. It was going to be like a 6,000, 7,000 square foot building, 2-story, 6 to 8 units or so, and then it evolved to 7,500, 8,000 square feet, 2-story, and then it evolved, and now we're looking at a 4-story building. Bottom story is commercial, multi-use commercial, and then the top 3 floors it's gonna be residential, 32 units, I believe, 33
Hmm.
units, ranging anything from a studio to a ADA studio, meaning it has access for wheelchairs and things like that, to 2 bedroom units to 3 bedroom units, and that's 30, I think our end is 31,000, 32,000 square feet we're going to be building. And then, obviously 10,000 square feet or so will be built on site. That'll be the commercial. And so our day to day for last, I don't know how long, has been back and forth on the design and just kind of the layout and the plan. I believe you guys now on your end is just kind of taking that design, that preliminary, and taking it to the city, making sure we're within the correct footprints and all that stuff. And then once we get the thumbs up, on our end, we're going to head into engineering. So that building that we're doing. So we're doing the second, third, and fourth story. The first story will be done on site because it's commercial, and it's going to act as the structural for the living spaces above. So there's a little bit more beef that needs to be done on site, concrete walls and things like that. But we'll be doing the 3 stories above it, living stories or living space. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the engineering. We're going to do mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We're going to do door schedules, window schedules. We're going to do the HVAC schedule. We're going to do all that stuff and get it engineered and approved through the state. Once we get all that, we're going to give that to you and your team. And then we could advise on the structural on the first story, but ultimately someone on site will have to make those decisions and get that approved through the city because that will be done on site in the city of San Bernardino. So someone needs to approve that and engineer that. But everything above that first story will be approved through the state and it's good to go. So as we build it in the facility, it's going to have multiple inspections. Each box, each unit will have multiple inspections. And then once we ship it to the site, it's already approved through the state. It's, met all those inspections. I believe there's 15 inspections in total that takes place throughout the building process. And so, it's good to go. You connect it to the first story, and it's good to go.
I think you mentioned a lot already about how S2A I think has a unique product, right? As far as being able to deliver on that construction timeline. You guys have a green footprint, right? And you've shared a lot about S2A. What else can you share that someone should know about the development as it relates to Launchpad? Are there any other key takeaways that you want to leave with the audience?
Well, as I mentioned, I mean, just your guys' building alone, it's not the same room over and over again. I mean, we have studio that's maybe 300 square foot-ish, an ADA studio, another two-bedroom unit that's maybe, 800 square foot or so. And then there's a few other units that range from 1,200, 1,500 square foot. And that just kind of shows the flexibility of S2A. So our line, when looking at offsite construction, a lot of times there's, two options, four options, and that's all they can do. This is the exact building you can do. You have to work within this window, and I'm sure you guys can ask Robert, and we've been very flexible and just kind of working within, and likewise the Launchpad team as well is like, okay, well let's try to work what's best within S2A, what's within Launchpad. Let's try to meet in the middle. But us, we have a flex line. We can build anything from a studio to a, two, three bedroom, 1,500 square foot, whatever. And that's what we can do. And we're willing to work those things out. And like you said, do it green to where we won't have any carbon footprint as we build the building for you. And whether it's a little 300 square foot studio or three, four, five bedroom house, doesn't matter to us. We can build it and we'll build it good.
Can you tell folks how they can reach S2A Modular? Can you provide your contact information and your company's website, please?
Yep. So S2AModular.com. Visit the website. There's a bunch of different models on there, a single family ADU, mixed use commercial. Definitely, reach out to me specifically 209-247-0725. Email is my first dot last name at S2AModular.com, Anthony.Diaquino at S2AModular.com. And yeah, feel free to reach out, answer any questions you may have, see if our timelines and prices can fit within your development, and let's make it happen.